everybody. How you doing? This is Howlin' Wolf Thompson. This is Howlin' Wolf Grizzly Man Radio. This is the Grizzly Bear Station. Remember when radio used to be a bunch of gruff men on a bunch of PAs? Bunch of ham radio? Breaker 19. This is our radio show. This is for all you lonely truck drivers out there. Can't catch a wink of sleep because you're so jacked up on speed and coffee and pancakes. You gotta deliver that freight across the country. We got Casper mattresses that need to get from Delaware down to Louisiana, and you're gonna need to get there in 18 hours. And if you're not there in 18 hours, you're on your ass. When these people are probably like sleeping in the back of their truck anyway. They got that little bed in there, and they're always picking up hitchhikers, because they need the companionship. That's got to be a rough way of life, just being out there on the open road, just driving a big old truck, and then whenever a kid does the honk the horn gesture, the decent fellas will actually they'll humor these children and say, hey, if I had a child, I'd be honking my horn all day. So this is like a surrogate scenario where I give that kid what he needs, which is a honked horn. And then it's back to just shifts, long hours on the open road with no end in sight. Just the horizon is just pavement. Just 16 exits to go. You're just counting down the Dunkin' Donuts. The Dunkin' Donuts is in between the Burger Kings. And when are we gonna get to the next rest stop? Because there's no rest in sight unless we're at a rest stop. And then that's where it all goes down. I was thinking about that. I'm just using my wildest imagination to wonder what masculine behavior actually looks like. I can only simulate it. I can't actually portray it accurately. That's something I've come to accept about myself. You're not going to get a lot of roast beef talk in these coordinates. Sure, I can play along and say, sure, how about how many pounds of bacon did you pick up the other day? Yeah, we're going to the butcher shop. Me and Johnny are going down to a local butcher just because we have a bloodthirst. And that bloodthirst is called masculinity. Masculinity. I don't know where people get it in their head that there's a design of gender. Like, there is rules and configurations, and there are limits to what can and cannot be expressed within the confines of gender. And I don't play by those rules. I play by my own handbook, which is just, hey, if you feel it, man, feel it. Let yourself feel that. I feel like that's what a lot of older generations, that's why so much heart failure was such a big thing. I feel like it's a huge generational thing. Heart attacks, heart failures, because all the stress that gets bottled up, all the repressed emotion, all the my father didn't share with me. He withheld his feelings from me, and then I did the same because I didn't learn how to transfer emotion in a healthy way. And the best I would allow myself was sitting in a truck listening to the Rolling Stones. And when they sing Wild Horses, I think about horses. And that's like the closest thing to an emotion I feel is, man, how about horses on an open field? That's sadness. That is a metaphor for which I allow myself to feel sadness without actually tracing the lineage of it. Without ever kind of saying, hey, this is exactly what I'm feeling, and I am self-aware, and I know that that's what I'm feeling. So I'm going to allow myself to feel it, and I'm not going to be shy or self-conscious about it comes up in a conversation and I just say it. You know, you're talking to someone, you're like, fuck, I've been depressed. There is a pandemic going on, and anxiety is real. Depression is real. There's only so much TV you can watch before you become a TV man. You know? Like, I feel like I'm listening to the Talking Heads Television Man. I'm like, that song is my autobiography. Because I feel like that's all there is. When you're trapped inside and you're just like, this is a happy box. You know, when they say it's the idiot box. But it's the thing where it's like, yeah, they designed that thing to 24 hours a day loop together the most heightened emotions with no filler, no, you know, there's editors, there's teams of people, there's teams of different corporations and different organizations stitching together the most seamless stream of content that, they chop out all the dead air, all the space for lingering thoughts and wandering thoughts and contemplations. And you have one program exactly at 5:30, and the next one's exactly at 6. And then when they have a commercial break, it's just back-to-back walls of sound, just Phil Spectors of advertising, just playing, you know, it's a big, bright hamburger ad. It's a big old bright burger with big yellow, big neon pink backdrop to a sweaty burger, to a greasy, shiny, like it looks like it's perspiring, like there's a fluffer, like, you know, people, there's like, it's like a burger was just in a porno, and you're capturing it at its glowing essence, like it just gave birth, and it's capturing its glow, like it's the newborn, the new-found mother's glow of having found purpose in producing an offspring. That's what that burger is feeling. That's what's being simulated, is the feeling of a burger giving birth to a younger burger, which I guess would be a slider. And that is what's being emulated by this hamburger commercial that's basically, it's going through the highest points of the human condition to sell you a hamburger that costs 99 cents, but it costs 2 cents to produce, based on how they quantify the meat, how they quantify the animal carnage and you know, infinitesimally splice it up to where there's 8,000 different cows in any given burger. Like, there are species, there are genuses of cow in every single individual hamburger patty. There are just cells of different cows co-mingling in this petri dish of a hamburger. And that's just the hamburger commercial. All of a sudden, then you have a Kohl's ad, and it's some mom who's just so excited to spend some extra disposable income on like a sweater or like a capri pant or of some kind, an open toe shoe, and it's just the most thrilling engagement. And then it's a pharmaceutical ad of some pill you don't need that may or may not have some detectable difference for any given condition, with the scariest laundry list of side effects and potential risk factors related to this drug that may or may not need to exist. But, you know, it's like families going for it's just like people on the beach, like elated, like in pure ecstasy over just mundane happenstance, like as if you've never been happier to see a grandmother in real life. And that's what's being cast on the screen, while the background is about a drug, which has nothing to do with this just generic example, this human slice of life. And then back to the program, and it's just more elation and jokes that got cut because they weren't good enough, and then more of just the best stitched together. And that's television, basically. That's the thing that hey, if we can't experience real life. We're not allowed to. Those are the rules based on the safety mechanisms, and until we're out of this, we only have vicarious experiences. So that's
that's the thing where we're trying to navigate through here. But back to the point of, but all the while, you experience feelings all throughout the day, and they gotta go somewhere. It doesn't make sense to bottle things up if you don't feel, the most joyous. If you feel just glum and down, bottling it up and say we don't feel that just seems very archaic. Like it's very caveman behavior, and I feel like there's this kind of resurgence or this longing for a day where men were just primates, and that's not something to strive for. Monkeys got bashed on the head by coconuts, and they didn't figure the way out of that one. And there's dodo birds who followed the trail of berries off a cliff kind of thing, and because they gave in to their most base primal instincts. Well, I like bright colors, I like meat, I like sexuality. But there's not that moment of like open reflection and self-improvement, and just allowing yourself to fail and grow and evolve in real time kind of thing. I don't think it's something to strive for, to be pure cavemen. Because, hey, we aren't that. We have cars. We don't put our feet through the bottom of the floor in our cars to run uphill, to rev your, Basically what I'm trying to say is cars are not from the Flintstones. We have engines. We have things. We have used our minds to excel and advance the species and allow less suffering and allow advancements in science to keep people, their life expectancies longer. And that's only come about by people saying, hey, we aren't cavemen. We don't, we exceed beyond our primal urges. I've heard there's these species of, I don't know if it's like turtles or it's just whatever animal it is. There's this type of animal, I think it's penguins. It's a type of animal, and basically, maybe it's a monkey. It's probably a certain type of monkey, like a specific monkey, where the beta males are actually the thriving gender counterparts. Like they are the, all the alphas got so hormoned up and so competitive and so, had so much to prove that they ended up wiping themselves out just in their arrogance and their stupidity and their ego. And then what was left was basically these, dad bod balding monkeys that are just kind of like, yeah, I like to go home and, play video games and think about Star Wars a little extra long. And, the woman the female counterparts to this species appreciates that. And is like, hey, this person's not trying to violently control me in every avenue. They're not constantly angling to dominate me, so I can have the freedom to do what I want to do. So you have these two species cohabitating in harmony because they can both lift each other up. They can be harmonious. They can be mutually beneficial. They can have a symbiotic relationship that helps each other thrive, versus the ones that want to climb the top of the mountain and crush everyone beneath them. They want to live on a mountain of bones. But at the end of the day, you get up there and you're like, oh, this mountain is 18 miles. I'm in outer space. Well, this bone mountain, I'm in outer space. There's no food up here. There's no information up here, and you can't rely on only yourself. That's what innovation is. You build off of ideas and you take them even further. But the same being true, things are complicated, and we are basically, you ever have a thought in your head and you're walking around the day and you're just kind of, you're just eating chips and just kind of staring, and you're like, we are just kind of sophisticated monkeys. Like, that is also true. We are just like these monkeys that figured out how to, like, think about things deeply. Like, how we got from the whatever the Prometheus stage of evolution, where the monkey figured out, I don't need to live in a jungle. I can, like, seriously create a habitat that can produce exceptional results. But however that happened, it's like, monkeys were, like, looking at leaves and they're like, what if that was medicine? And then, like, figured out all this weird shit where it's like, we live in this weird thing where we put on clothes and, we have cell phones and we have these rituals and these kind of obligations, and we wear hats down the street. And we have, like, gestures and things, like specific branded gestures that, like, make people money. Like, you ever think about, like, how random, like, just what is, like dabbing or dabbing, like, just, this generation figured out putting your arms at a 45-degree angle and your head down for no specific reason it swept the nation. It's like this, every now and again there's these things, the Miley Cyrus tongue thing. Like, it's like these specific, I'm going to do one type of specific thing, and that's going to catch on and become like a meme of some kind, and it's going to capture imaginations from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. And, like, at the end of the day, like, what is that? Like, there's a certain level of, like, like, monkeys figured out how to high-five each other, and that was, like, a form of, like, communion, and, like, when a monkey grabs another monkey by the head and kisses him on the forehead, or, like, puts his head to his head and is, like, it's a bonding. It's like this exchange, this transfer of heat between the warm parts of our brain. It has this, like, symbolic significance, but then it's kind of like, it's not too different from when you see, like, what's his name? Justin Bieber. Like, he always does this thing when he's not singing or performing whatever, where he's kind of like a Mortal Kombat character at the character select screen. He's always kind of like, like shifting it, like, he's doing the thing that, you just imagine one of the guys, like, or like Street Fighter, like E Honda is just standing there and he's doing that kind of like pacing his arms, and he's like throw it, like, kind of like a huddling and kind of bouncing around kind of thing. Like a default setting of some kind of a presence. It's like this is what I am. This is what I mean I am. It's like suggesting a meaning about yourself through the form of just gesture. Kind of like ambiguous gesture is how people convey information about themselves. And people take it and they're kind of like, I know what that means. Or they're like, I want to know what that means. Or like, we all kind of know what that means deep down. And it just seems like there are still these kind of things of, like, the monkey brain. We are, like, kind of these monkeys who figured out so much shit. But we always still got to figure out some shit. But I was just imagine, like, let's say, like, humans were still, like, Planet of the Apes is, like, it's timeless, Like, it's, like, imagine, like, if all the humans were just chimpanzees. Like, it was just, like, some kind of thing where all the humans beings on Earth, with their suits and their ties and their day jobs and their series of rituals, and they're washing dishes and they're lighting candles and incense and hanging up picture frames and picking colored fabrics to put on the ground and having bowls of sticks in their kitchen and having an island in the middle as like a social type of furniture, like a centralizing piece of furniture. But they're all apes, like they're all chimpanzees doing all that stuff. Isn't that kind of weird? Like to think like if we were watching chimpanzees do all this stuff, don't you think about it in a different way and you're like, what are they doing? Like, isn't that so random? Why are you, like, if you were a monkey or a dog even, like, if a dog was as thoughtful or as introspective or as clever or capable as a human mind, but they chose not to talk, you gotta imagine, like, that type of super smart yet decidedly silent and introverted dog would look at us and be like, why do you decide to do these types of things? Like, what are you doing with a thing that makes loud noise? It's a vacuum cleaner. Like, why do you keep turning that on and making that noise for about 15 minutes and moving it around the rest of the room and then stopping it and then sitting down? And also, why do you sit on these elevated types of objects? Like these, basically they're like big tree stumps kind of thing. Instead of sleeping on the ground where it's like, hey, it's there. What do you need? Just put a soft, warm thing on the ground, grab your favorite bone, and you're being way too pretentious with these, like, color-coordinated fabric furnitures, you know? And then you tell me I can't sit on that? Like, what am I that is different from you that can't sit on a couch? But there's a reason for it, man. They'll just never understand. How can you explain to a dog, we know about microorganisms. We know about bacteria. We know about germs. We know about allergens and dander. We know about, human intolerances. We know about food sensitivities. That's why we don't eat exactly what you eat. But also, we would never want to eat what you eat. Although we eat things that are similar to what you eat, but, like, not meat flavored. Like, we don't just eat chicken and, like, just generic food, contained kibble little bits. Well, kibbles and bits of just, like, just generic type food groups. Like, we, like, nuanced foods, you know? Like, how do you explain a spice to a dog? It's like, no, it does, we like putting a little bit of this thyme and parsley on this chicken, because it makes such a negligible, such an imperceivable difference in flavor that's so worth it. Oh, we'll spend $10 on a spice, because it's worth it. How do we justify things being worth the cost that they are? Like, when you have to go out and buy things that are kind of like, when you have to buy something that isn't food or is not, like, exactly just a basic survival mechanism, like, I need a jacket and shoes to protect my body heat and my feet. I buy just chicken and a potato. Those are edible and they're nourishing. But, like, how do you justify the cost of, like, raw honey? And you're paying, like, $15 for, like, a little jar of this honey, and you use it sometimes. Like, these things that you kind of sometimes use, it costs so much money. I need to have like tarragon every now and again. That's $30 for a little shaker. And it's just like, how is the shaker of tarragon $30 and the chicken's like $4 on sale? And it's usually on sale. These are the deep questions of life that a chimpanzee or a dog or the beta monkey, the monkey that is basically like the It's basically the Paul, you know who I'm talking, Paul Scheer of Monkeys kind of thing. Like he's the one who's like settled down and has a family, but is like balding, and like, you know, it's like that thing where it's like he's not the alpha male prime candidate. Like there are these like that is the alpha type, that is genetic perfection. That is the thing that is like the aspirational example of a species, or a gender of a species, but it's doing totally fine. Like I don't get people that have to be the absolute leader of a field. They have to be like the top of anything, because you don't need that. Like you don't need to be the best competitive kayaker on Earth. Who are you doing that for? Like, why would you need to be known for that? Like people who would compete to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And it's like, sure, for the 12-year-old kids that like to read those books when they're younger, because they're like, yeah, they have young kids have like peculiar interests, but they find like the Guinness Book of World Records and they're like, look at that person with the very long fingernails. That's pretty neat. And they're known for that, like known for having the longest fingernails, and they'll be remembered for that. And that those books are published, as long as that the Guinness Corporation has a lifetime perpetuation, as long as that's an institution that is sustainably renewed, it's vigorously, the legacy of the Guinness family is forever, it's permanentized, if that's the right word, the kind of word I'm looking for. That this person with these fingernails is like, they'll be remembered for generations to come for having very long fingernails and nothing else. Like nothing else they did meant anything in the grand scheme of the human race. And it's very wild that people shoot for these things. And, it's one thing to be like depressed and grow your fingernails long, and then you start to make like a lifestyle, and then you start to make a mission and a purpose out of it. But then there's people that are like, I'm going to do like 45 backflips with this, off the ski jump, which is like you're risking your life and you're doing something that like few would, the death defiance of it is how you kind of secure your place until somebody does like 46, and then all of a sudden you're forgotten in the annals of time. But like the people who shoot for those things, it's like, why shoot for it? Like, you might get a sponsorship deal, and maybe that's like your nest egg, or like you get to live off of that for something or whatever. But it's like, you could also just like go to work in advertising, or like, go to work, get a job, and like, I mean, you can still go skiing and like do backflips if you want to do that. But like to spend your life to be the best, to be the most physically fit and agile and weather resistant, and honing that specific talent, and you have to spend a lot of time to get to that level. You don't just like really be passionate. Like you really have to like go weekend after weekend getting like, weekend passes at these ski lodges and shit. It's a life of mittens, basically. That you're doing to become like this exceptional skier, for the chance that you might make a good chunk of change or something, or seal some kind of legacy out of it. But it just seems like a lot of work to get to a lot of just kind of, well, now what? Now we're here, now what? You got to 45, and then maybe you blew out your ankle, and now you're, now you're looking at younger skiers and with envy and that kind of thing. Or you're playing like, you start playing like ski video games, and you kind of like, you try to like avatar your way into like finding purpose in your life. I just think, if you get to a point where you're like, I don't have the option to go skiing today, then maybe pick something else up. Be very good at yo-yoing. It takes a little less physical effort, and, it's more localized, and you can still get into the Guinness Book. And how must the person who did 45 backflips skiing feel when their very next page is like the kid who ate the most boogers, and they did that at like 12? You're equal status, but very different focuses, very different capacities of effort. That's what I'm trying to say is, like, you can be a well-rounded person, and ultimately I think you're happier and you live longer and you enjoy the most amount of things. And if one thing doesn't pan out, you still have a different thing. And, there's no limit to how far you can take anything. But to spend your life being like, I'm going to be like a shoe polish tycoon, and I'm going to be the king of the field. I'm going to crush every other shoe polish there is. I'm going to eat these people alive. I'm a shark. I'm going to devour my competition, and I'm going to lose my empathy and my soul along the way, and I'm going to just rack up shoe polish deal after shoe polish deal and acquisitions and mergers, and just all of a sudden you're just this conglomerate of shoe polish. And then, you spend your whole life doing that, but then, like, you walk down the street and someone's like, what, you just care about a lot of shoe polish? What else about you? What else is there about you? And then you just, you drink because you didn't focus on any other skill or strength or, any type of aptitude. Because you're like, I wake up, shoe polish, go home, lots of time left with my thoughts. So I don't see a lot of shoe polish tycoons developing a hobby, a side project, Like, there aren't shoe polish tycoons that are at the top of their field. They're not like the Citizen Kane of their field. And then also, like, hey, I also have, like, a very interesting, like, stamp collection. Or I also, like, am a sick guitar soloist in addition to that. But that's the thing I downplay. That's just my outlet when I go home. I'm saying balance, man. Gotta balance some of this shit out. Can't just be such a monomaniacal individual that you lose sight of joy and just fulfillment. Holistic fulfillment, like spiritual, emotional, mental, sure, sensual, sexual, all that stuff. That can be in there. Doesn't have to be the only thing. But, you don't have to be a conqueror to enjoy the world. Like, you can be part of the world, enjoy it to its, like, optimum degree without destroying it, without being the reason that other people can't sleep at night. Like, to contribute to that, and then make it so you steal, not only is your own joy lost, you make sure everybody else's is gone too. And then it's just it's a nothing game. It's a nothing gained type of game to go down that road. And that's why I choose not to do that, to just fixate on victories and success and the self-adulation and congratulations of sales and the value, the soul interconnectedness of soul worth and net worth. That happens a lot, especially in a capitalistic society. People confuse themselves with their income, with their livelihood. They confuse their lives with their livelihood, which is just another word for salary. And the people who have $18 billion and can't imagine a world in which they only have $2 billion. Like they're destitute. Like they enter somehow rich people enter a frame of, I'm still financially insecure even though I have $18 billion, because what if it runs out? What if, that's why I got to keep the thirst. I have to keep the hunger. And no matter what happens, just because I want to make sure that I can, if I need to, buy the world outright. Like I need to make sure I can afford the price tag of the earth. Should that need to be the case, I need to have that option available to me. And that's what I'm losing if I really lose 1 billion of this 18 billion and solve world hunger and healthcare, disenfranchisement. Because that's really what it comes down to. There's no such thing as a good or moral billionaire. If you have $2 billion, there's no such thing as being good. Because if you shared $1 billion, you would solve American poverty. Every human would have health care in America. There'd be no budgets. There'd be no shortages. There'd be no complications, no insurance complications. If wealthy people partied with money they don't need and don't touch, and there's not even a thing on this earth that exists that costs that much. It's purely symbolic. And it gets to a point where once you've reached a certain level of symbolism, nothing can mean anything anymore. If you have multiple billions of dollars, you've already entered a world where nothing means anything. And all you're doing is playing a video game where the score goes up. And you want the highest score. We're all playing a multiplayer video game, and you are ruining the game for everybody. It's like you're playing Simpsons Wrestling, and you're deciding to be Ned Flanders and using the lightning bolt attack every single round until everyone loses each time. Like, you're ruining it for everybody. And after a point, you're not even enjoying the game because you just know how to win every time. But you could even be like, you know how like when you're playing basketball with a child, you let them win sometimes because they're fragile they're fragile people with like limited immune systems and like a limited skeletal structure that the smallest injury could cause huge injury. You let them win sometimes so they start to build their own mental capabilities and faculties and, self-worth and self-sufficiency and all that kind of stuff. You let them win sometimes so they can at least know what it feels like, to know what good, what loss and wins are, just the difference between the two. But if you're just constantly crushing children on the playground because you're a full-grown adult and these children are just children, you're making it terrible for everybody. And at the end of the day, why would you want to do that? That's not a fun exercise just to be able to do that every time. So really what it comes down to is just, let the kids win sometimes. Or even just say, I've won enough. I can win amongst other adults, or, just enjoy what you have and don't play against children in a very highly competitive way just to crush children. This metaphor being that the adult is the multi-billionaire and the children are people in poverty who are systematically locked in to their own suffering by human manufactured constraints. And if you know that you have the power to eliminate that completely, like it's very possible to eliminate healthcare disenfranchisement. It's very easy to make sure everybody has a home. And it's very easy to make sure there's no such thing as starvation in this world, because there are multiple billionaires who decide to hold fundraisers and have other people pay under their name. Like people who hold rich people who hold fundraisers but don't give large portions of their own wealth are bankrupt, you know? Like, to be like, oh, hi, I'm Amazon. We also have this program because it looks good to be a philanthropic organization. We're just trying to be the dominant every business. And we do Amazon Smile, and we give like 0.1% of every of your sales to whatever charity you want. Meanwhile, Amazon's $1 trillion company. The government hasn't even had that much money. Trillions of dollars, and they print money. Jeff Bezos is a multi-billionaire. He could personally solve healthcare, discrepancy. The fact that not everybody has healthcare in a place where billionaires just keep cash in a tank, they just keep cash in some silo, like they're farmers and they're farming money trees and they just keep cash in a big old barn. They don't touch it because they're afraid of winter. That Jeff Bezos has the power to end starvation and homelessness and to feed every single human being and give them all health care. He has the power to do that and still be a billionaire. That's evil.
Darkness had no bottom, through emptiness I fell. My face began to laugh at me, and then I heard it yell. Nightmare, villains and meanies tracking me down. Nightmare, devils and genies floating around. Nightmare, witches and goblins walking on air. Nightmare.
Nightmare 1-star reviews of meat on Amazon. There's a section of the show where we look at 1-star reviews of meat on Amazon Fresh, and we see a bunch of people who didn't have a good time, and every time they tell their story, it's like a horror story from the crypt. It's a Crypt Keeper tale of terror about some meat that they purchased and disappointed them. Here we go. These are Nightmare Amazon reviews. Nightmarish Amazon reviews. 3 bug included. Threw this tiny expensive junk away. The package was busted and leaking everywhere, and a dead bug had been packaged inside. It smelled so funky I didn't even want to risk cooking and giving it to my dog. Next review.
Absolutely terrible. This was the toughest, least flavorful meat I've ever had. I can't believe I spent so much money to disappoint my family. We only get the kids once in a while. So that really wrecked our special occasion. Avoid this at all costs.
Next review. Smaller than my fist and tough as nails. This meat is worse than even Walmart's meat. The roast is tiny, about the size of my fist. Admittedly, I have big hands, and is maybe a small serving for 2 people who are not big meat eaters. The flavor is horrible. Tastes like it has been unrefrigerated for too long. And the meat is so tough you could almost take a slice to repair the sole of your shoes. Next review is of USDA Choice Pork Butt Steak. Bad quality or bad luck? Smelled like rotten meat. Looked greenish and gooey. Had to toss it. I received a refund from Amazon Fresh. Next review. Looked fresh but smelled terrible. After rinsing it thoroughly and even washing it in white vinegar, it still smelled awful. Not sure if it was spoiled or processed with chemicals, but I didn't want to get sick, so I threw it away a day before the expiration date. I see here that other people are complaining about the smell, too. Wouldn't buy again. This is from Jessica. Disgusting. Do not buy. Do not buy this meat.
It comes bad smelling like rotten eggs. It looks perfectly fine and I ate it, so hopefully I don't die because Amazon can't keep the meat fresh.
This next one's from MS.
Smells really, really bad. Had to toss it. Smells really, really bad. Had to toss it. The other reviewer said it smells like... because it is a pork butt. I purchased pork butt from Amazon Fresh multiple times and never had this kind of smell. This is a smelly-ass pork butt. This pork butt smells like an ass. This isn't pork butt, this is pork ass. This pork butt smells like shit. Somebody needs to wipe this pork butt's ass. This pork butt has got a leaky anus. This pork butt needs to wipe its ass. I think this pork butt farted. Pork butt, you're a nightmare.